start out in the musical world?
I was very fortunate as a kid, born into a fundamental right-wing independent Baptist preacher's home. My parents were very artistic in very unique ways. My dad was Cherokee, so he was dark-skinned and jet black straight hair, Native American hair, indigenous, whatever term you want to use, but he was Cherokee. My mom was Scottish Irish, which is me, fair-skinned, reddish, brown hair. And they were basically the Ricky and Lucy of the fundamental independent Baptist world. Though I want to say, as we all know their history of Ricky and Lucy, like Desi Arnaz, Dad was not a womanizer. And my mom had two dreams. She wanted to be a Baptist preacher's wife and a showgirl in musicals. So you realize my mom walked to a little bit of a slant through life. And here we are in Chickasha, Oklahoma, between Oklahoma City and Lawton, which is where Fort Sill Army Base is. We were right in the middle on the highway. And while everybody else was listening to rock and roll and country and all that kind of stuff, not in our home. We only had the Andrews sisters, the McGuire sisters, Nat King Cole, Johnny Mathis, Liberace, musicals of any nature. It was just, that's what I was raised on, and that was normal to me. I'm the baby of 5. That was just normal. And every Saturday we cleaned house. Mom made us, of course, boys help her clean house. And she'd put on this My Fair Lady recording. So every time, and I'm the baby, so I was the duster. So when I hear ding, 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 bum, 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 the overture, I'm going, where's my dust rag? I got to have a dust rag, because that's my job. To this music, I'm dusting. And I'm very thankful for that upbringing. My dad was an incredible whistler. He could whistle any tune perfectly in pitch with a vibrato and interpretation whistling. So when you're raised around people like that, that's normal. And so my piano teacher that taught my mom and my brothers and my sister wouldn't take kids until they were 9 years old, because she wanted to make sure you could read. So that's 3rd grade. Really read well. And when I started with Mrs. White, Ms. Mary White in Chickasha, she was a concert pianist, but she also played in the Church of God church. And that's kind of the Pentecostal holiness, I would say much more lively than a Baptist church. And but she was a concert pianist, and she could play anything and then improvise and all this stuff. So I was practicing day and night, to the point my dad and my brothers would say, "Stop!" Mom would go, "Close your door, Mark, keep practicing." She was my guardian. And then when we started into more classical kind of stuff, I lost interest. And so she called my mom and said, I'm assuming that you and Reverend York want Mark to play in your church. Mom goes, "Oh, absolutely." So we'll bring a hymnal with him. I'm going to teach him how to improvise. And when Mrs. White cracked that door open to what we call today stride piano, octave chord, and that's the very rudimentary style of it, I kicked that door open so wide, and I never looked back. And then we moved to Cincinnati when I was 12. So, and when I was 10, we had an organ that a lady had donated who was in our church, and she got a new organ for her home, and she gave us her old organ. We're Baptist, so it's not a big cathedral organ. They're like, smaller type organs. And the college girl played it. She was going home, and she wasn't coming back to Chickasha from college, so no one played it. And the deacons and the trustees had a meeting and wanted to sell it, which hacked my dad off, because Arlie Hampton had given us the organ, and she was right there in the pews every Sunday. So he was mad. They wanted to sell it for the money. Of course they did. And I said, "Dad, if someone learns to play it, can we keep it?" And I was 10. And that was at our dinner, or what we call dinner, lunch, after our Sunday service. And he goes, buddy, are you serious about that? That's how he talked to us boys. We were like his cabinet. Mom was the first lady and we were the cabinet. I said, yeah. And he goes, great. To my brother who was 16. James, when we get done, take Mark to the church, open the door, lock him in. We had push bars so I could get out. Lock him in for 3 hours. Marky, you figure out that thing, and James will come back and get you and be ready for Sunday night service. And that's how I taught myself to play the organ, with 2 registers and the pedals. And then luckily, and I tell you this because it really is the foundation of who I am. Between the music my mom played in our home all the time, and the TV shows, which I'll tell you about in a moment we watched. But just all of this is still such me today. And so when I got good enough, Dad say, okay, bud, do you think you're good enough to play in front of people? And I said, yeah, I think I got to. He goes, good. Sunday school starts at 10, church service starts at 11. So why don't you get there at 9:30 with me, Dad, because he'd get there to open up the church and turn all the lights on, blah, blah, blah. And his Sunday school class were the seniors and senior citizens, and they would stay in the sanctuary or the auditorium, as we called it, and that's where he taught his class plan. We all went off to our own classes. Well, he goes, you know, my group, they're seniors, they get there early, so why don't you start playing at 9:30 until we start sing a song for Sunday school and get dismissed. I said, great. So that little 10 years old, little freckle-faced, chubby Mark York, and I'm sitting there playing church hymns, and just, you know, and people are going, oh my God, oh my God. Well, then it only took one Sunday. The next Sunday I started playing, his class got there at 9:30, not 9:45, 9:30. They were there. I had a crowd before I started playing. So I sat down, and then I started playing. But the moment kids got there, they would grab a kid, hand him something, and go, take that down to Mark. Well, then I have these kids walking down going, on the back of an offering envelope, gum wrapper, receipts from grocery store, whatever. Miss Jones wants you to play $3.95. And then the kid goes, Brother Smith wants you to play number 12. And 100 and this, and I go, and I'm playing like I'm in a cocktail bar, okay? But it's a church, and playing church hymns. And I go, just put it underneath so it all stays in order. And then I finish it, and I'd look at it, I'd put it over here, go to that number, I'd play it, and go to the next one. Well, I did that until I was 12, every Sunday. And they're just pulling, you know, songs out. Of course, I knew most of them, but I had to learn them really quick and play them on an organ. We go to Cincinnati, and I'm thinking they have 7 adult pianists. I'm not going to have to do anything. I'll sit next to Mom on the second pew from the front, on the right, where we sat there, as the preacher's family. So the first Sunday we're there for Sunday school. All these people show up, the place is packed. And Sunday school's about to start. Dad comes off the platform, comes down, walks over to us. I thought he was going to talk to Mom. He looks at me and says, hey buddy, you're up. Again, this is how our dad talked to us. He loved us. He's a great dad. Oh my God, he spent time with us, everything, but he didn't take anything off us boys. But we were his cabinet, so he talked right across the table to us. There was no talking down. And I never heard my parents ever say, oh, you can't do that. I never heard that. Now, I don't mean discipline. I mean ability. And my dad told all of us boys, okay, go do this, Marky. And we never said, I can't do that, because we never heard that. Okay, you know how to do it, just take care of it. Can't you do this, James? You do. Just how he talked to us. So he goes, okay, come on, Marky, we need to start up this thing. I said, Dad, I'm not playing the piano. I'm 12. They got pianos. Oh, no, they want you to play for Sunday school. I said, he goes, so come on, let's get this going. So I stand up, walk around, go to the thing. There's an organist. The guy goes, we're going to play, whatever it is, blah, blah, blah. I play, because piano's the main instrument, I play the intro, and we go to singing. And so we get done, I think, I've done my preacher's kid duty. So I go off to my Sunday school class first time, come back, sit down next to Mom. That's where I'm the baby of the family. I sit next to Mom. And all of a sudden we're getting ready. The choir's up there. And Mom gets out because she's going to join the choir, just jump in. And I'm sitting there with my brothers. And Dad comes off the platform before we ever started. Okay, buddy, you're up. I said, Dad, I've already played for Sunday school. He goes, oh, no. You're the new church pianist. And I go, Dad, I'm not bumping someone else out of this just because I'm preacher's kid. I'm 12. They're all adults. And he goes, oh, no. They had a meeting between Sunday school and church, and they voted to have you be the church pianist, and they're going to sub for you. So just not to brag, but you got to understand my ability at age 12. And then I became the church pianist. And then we moved back to Oklahoma to a small country church. But I had a glorious upbringing. And I did all kinds of things. But it was always musical. Mom loved the Andrews Sisters, so every church we went to, she would start an Andrews Sisters version of singing church hymns sophisticatedly, not honky-tonk. And we had a group called the Salem Baptist Trio, and we toured all over everywhere, matching dresses. I had matching outfits of the women, and they had this Andrews Sisters sound of church hymns. It was fabulous. And so, and I'm going to skip ahead. So when I was 17, we're back in Oklahoma. And just in the outskirts of Oklahoma City, Mom says, Mark, I just read in the Daily Oklahoman, Carol Channing is coming to Oklahoma City in Hello, Dolly on its way to Broadway. And I've never been a Carol Channing fan, but I want to see Hello, Dolly. And she goes, I've already bought his tickets. I'm going, yay. Because we watched every movie musical since I can remember. Carol Burnett show, of course, I Love Lucy. All of the variety shows, Dean Martin show, the Jackie Gleason show, every Christmas thing, you know. It was Andy Williams, Perry Como. I mean, you name them, we watched them. And that was paramount. Nothing superseded the variety show on a night, or Carol Burnett, that's Saint Carol Burnett, and Saint Lucy. Those were just paramount. So we go to see it. We're sitting up in the balcony. The Oklahoma City Civic Center seat around 3,500 people, and Mom got us front rows. And so we're here, and Carol Channing's about this big, way down there. But it was incredible. The production was, and it's going to Broadway. It was the first revival. And when the song Hello, Dolly ended, I looked at my mom and I said, that's what I'm going to do. Well, Mom was thrilled. You know, like, yay, my baby, musical theater, yay. And that's how I got into musicals. And like I told you, my dad said he wanted me to play more like Lawrence Welk of the hymns. Okay? So all I did was take the religious lyrics out and then secular. But I play up tunes like I do for Broadway shows. The way I play church tunes, up tunes. The ballads are all the same. You know, and there were just the change of lyrics. So when you hear me play, of course, there's certain beats I don't play in church music, unless we're kind of getting revival tent thing and I'll Fly Away, and it can be, which is a show beat. But anyway, it just all became very natural. And this is where I'm going to top off this part of your question. My dad was very earthy, Cherokee, very earthy. And he believed that the talents that God gives each of us individually should not be shunned, but should be encouraged and developed. Well, besides music, when I was 9, my mom taught me how to sew. I'm very artsy. everything. And I was sewing since I was 9. And all my friends, mostly girls in the neighborhood, I'd go, girls, we're putting on a musical. What was I, 9, 10, 11? Because Mom had taught me how to sew. I'm making you all costumes. I'm not in it, but for them, they go, yay! So I've been doing that forever. And I even did some flower arranging in Cincinnati and in Oklahoma when we moved back, because I just love flowers, and it just looks so gorgeous, and it was artistic. Well, my dad had me write musicals for Vacation Bible School and the Christmas musical and all of this. And one preacher in our independent fundamental world said, I can't believe you let your son do all this. And my dad literally looked at him and said, I don't care if my son is a pianist in a whorehouse. If he does it for the glory of God, God will bless him. And that shut that preacher up instantly, being all condemnation and judgmental. And of course I wasn't doing anything like that. But Dad just hacked him off that he would even. And everybody, women and kids, everyone loved it. And it was all church stuff, And so anyway, that was the kind of background I was raised in. And then when I was in my 20s, I started a children's production company called York Productions. Dad built my sets. Mom made costumes for who couldn't make costumes, and ran my box office. They were right there. And Dad would go, we moved back to a little bitty town called Tuttle, Oklahoma, and he'd go out to the Tuttle junkyard. And I did a show with 60 kids in 1984, April of 1984, and it was the Ziegfeld Follies. And the kids met one day a week after community education for an hour, and I had 2 classes, younger and older, each an hour. That's all they rehearsed. 60 kids on stage. And that year I drove a Corvette T-top Corvette on stage. And my little ones were in, the poodle skirts, and we did a Grease medley. And then the car drove off. I had this huge theater I could do it in. Well, anyway, I said, Dad, I'm going to have showgirls at the end. Now, mind you, 6 years old to 14 years old. But I taught them how to be it. And they were like the ladies of the universe. We had Miss Mars, Miss Venus, Miss Mercury, all that. And then Miss Universe. And he went out to the Tuttle Tuttle junkyard. And a construction was always going on. And he got all these pallets that they had thrown away and brought them in and made me stairs going up to the first pallet landing, which was about this high, and another set of stairs going up, and it was up higher than those walls. The second, and the girls had to come up a staircase up the back, and then come out in the front, and go walking out. Oh, the girls loved it. And so did the parents. It was just beautiful, 60 kids. So my whole life, and I talk about Mom and Dad, because a lot of people are trying to forget their parents. There is no way I can forget my parents. I am my parents. And you're seeing half Jack York and half Murtis York, M-E-R-T-I-S. Because they each gave me their individual talents that God had given them. And they taught us everything. They taught us boys everything. And then they let each of us boys be who we are. And of all places to be, I'd probably be the one that my life might not be so happy, with happy memories, being come from far right-wing, fundamental, independent Baptist. But that was not my experience at all because of my parents. And I wasn't trying to rebel. I didn't, smoke, drink, doing that kind of stuff. I just wanted to use my artistic talents. And my dad used every single one of them in his church to the happiness and glory of God and the happiness of the people in the church. So that's how I started out, and I'm just still doing what I did as a kid in my dad's church.
It sounds like you miss them very much.
I do. But they're with me every day. No, I think it'd be a great succession to that.
Okay.
So Mark, can you tell us more about your time working with Anita?
Oh, working with Anita Sorel. Anita has a word that she uses a lot. Matter of fact, all the time. It's an adventure. Okay. Anyone who knows Anita Sorel, it's an adventure. And my mom was a lot like that. Everything was an adventure. So when I met Anita, and everything's an adventure, it's like, this is mother's milk. Because I understand, and I lived in this world of it's an adventure. So when I met Anita, and I'm really trying to think, it'd be like 1994. I lived on the Upper West Side at 69th and Central Park West. A friend of ours, a mutual friend named Helen Palladino. And Anita and Helen were in this acting class that they were acting partners. Helen said, you got to meet Mark York. You got to meet Mark York. You got to meet Mark York. So Anita and I planned a time, and there was no warm-up period. The moment we met, it was bam, we were instant friends moving forward. And so she taught at Columbia Prep School on 93rd and Central Park West. And she was the theater teacher. And so she did all kinds of stuff. Well, the first thing she was going to do, she was, well, I'm doing Wizard of Oz. You'll be my musical director. Because a lot of school music teachers are kind of note players. And I'm more of a orchestra. So I go, great. And so we started rehearsing. She goes, now I need an opening number. There's no opening number in the Wizard of Oz movie with Judy. And so I wrote an opening number called You're Not in Kansas Anymore. And the basic gist was, and she did all in black and white and gray. And everyone's very poker-faced and dull. And all the people there in Kansas. And the whole idea is, if things are bustling and high and you're not in Kansas anymore. Well, no, if it isn't this, it's you know, if it is, and it just, you're not in Kansas anymore, is that you're somewhere else. You are somewhere else. And so if it's all exciting, you're not in Kansas. And we did that. It's very successful. Of course, all the songs from the movie. And then she goes, okay, and I love that she did this. She had an Asian boy who was great character actor, and she cast him as the Wicked Witch of the West. He was spectacular. And she goes, he needs a song. There's no witch's song. So I wrote a song called That's How the Cookie Crumbles. And it's her singing about other fairy tales. And Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, how they all went wrong. Not what Disney is whitewashed, but how they all went wrong. And that was very successful, which then I turned around in later years, because that's just for Wizard of Oz, that one production. I put it in my production as the witch in, or the wicked fairy in my Sleeping Beauty children's musical. So anyway, we did that, and we did it at Symphony Space, which is a very well-known performance space in Manhattan. And then we did a Shakespeare musical of Midsummer Night's Dream. And Anita actually played Titania. And my roommate, best friend from college, who's 6'3", and a high screaming tenor, Skylar Bentley, played Oberon. And then all the kids in the high school, and then we brought in grade school kids as ogres and fairies, and it was a quite large production. And it was called Dream, the musical. And we did that. And then I think Symphony Space is very expensive. So we went back to the school, to their performance space. And if I'm correct, I'm pretty sure that Destry Rides Again was our next musical. And which is a show that Anita toured in and loved it. And then we did Fiddler on the Roof. And then she moved out to East Hampton, Long Island, which is part of Southampton, East Hampton, to a very shishi foo-foo school. And I mean shishi. They actually had literal, real, famous artwork on the walls. And when they go, oh yes, this statue here is from the Ming Dynasty. It's a high school. I think they even had grade school, but high school. And so it was wild for rich, rich, rich people. Well, she became the theater teacher and did even more wonderful productions. And her husband, Richard Keyes, is a painter and a tennis coach, but a painter. And he started doing all of her sets. And he was a glorious set designer, painter. And I mean, when it needed to be right angles or 45-degree angles, they were. So you didn't have staircases that had posts going like this, like you see a lot in community theaters. It was all to perfection. And he just made glorious sets. Glorious sets. And of course, Anita, and she taught sewing. She's costume designer. I mean, you just had it all in one family. And so out there, we did Grease, and then we wrote a musical called What Goes Around. And it's a musical version of The Women. And here's the funny part. I couldn't be there for the shows. And I'm the composer. She was lyricist and book writer. And I had a show back in Manhattan. I couldn't do it. But this school was so fancy. They had Yamaha pianos, concert grands, all the way up to the upright, pianos, brand new. But they had this machine on it called a disc clavier. And the disc clavier, you could put a floppy disk in. Do anyone remember floppy disk? And you'd push record, and whatever you played, and your pedaling and nuances and all that, it played it back on the piano with the hammers hitting so I just wasn't physically there pushing, but it played everything exactly the way I played it. So when we got all set, she goes, come out, and the music teacher will sit with you, and you just go through every musical entry that includes songs, scene change, underscoring, whatever, bit by bit, as they would all be played, and he'll record them and take note of it. And in the show, he would just push the button. The piano would be off stage behind the curtain. And people go, Mark's here, Mark's here. No, he's not. He's in Manhattan. We heard him. He's playing that piano. Yes. But the disc clavier is pushing the keys down the way I pushed them down in the pedaling. So you heard a real piano playing it real. It was just like, oh my God, spectacular. And I'm not sure if I can't remember what we did after What Goes Around. We did a couple summer workshops with spit spot songs, and then I'll just say, I think in her 70s, decided she needed a new adventure. And so, yeah, a new adventure in her 70s. And she's said to me many times, where would I want to go that I don't want to pay to go? So she joined the American International School System, which is all over the world. And so if you're a diplomat or a corporate person or whatever, and you have kids and you move around the world, your kids be in this system. So your kid is, let's say, he's in London or she's in London in first grade. And then you move to Bangkok for second grade. It's the same system, same curriculum. The second graders in Bangkok in this school system are the same as the second graders there. You move to New York, you move wherever, Singapore, you move to Berlin, Switzerland, wherever you're going. If you're in the American school system, it's all the same school system. So you're never behind or ahead. It's like the kids are with you everywhere. New kids, but same thing. So anyway, she takes a job in Nairobi, Kenya, in her 70s. Yeah, wow, is all Joan can say. It's like, that's what I said. So she goes, I'm going to Nairobi, Kenya. I go, you're what? I'm teaching high school in Nairobi, Kenya, in the American International School System. So she did, and she did shows there, and I mean, of course she always did shows, and they had a beautiful auditorium and everything. And then she goes, I want to do anything goes, and I'm bringing you over. I said, okay. So I got my passport done, and I went to Nairobi, Kenya for a month to do anything goes. And we had a blast. She got me in a safari. I saw the Big Five, and I was only there for a day and a half, but somehow they go, you never get to see all five. I saw all five. The guy goes, you're so lucky, in a day and a half. Yeah, the Big Five helped me out. It's like rhino, I think elephant, hippo, I'm not sure if that's one of them. Right, and then like gorilla, and maybe lion, the Big Five. And like you said, you don't always see all of them. I saw them all. And had a great time. Came back, rehearsed Anything Goes for a month. We did it while I was there. And then I flew back. So I think the next year's was her last year there. And they moved back to East Hampton, and then they moved out here. So when she called and said, I'm doing Nunsense, I want you to be the musical director. It's like, well, book my flight, and I'll mark this off on my New York calendar so nothing gets stuck in here. And so I'm here for 2 weeks to get the music all going. And the ladies are fabulous, all five of them. They have come so far in just 2 weeks. And we've already sung through the whole score 3 times, and the last time off book. That's never done. In the first 2 weeks of rehearsal, never. But we have. And so I'm really looking forward to see how the show turns out. But it's how I started when you asked me the other question, you know, how did you come to Sandy, Oregon from New York Broadway? And it's like, Anita Sorel. Because once again, it's another Anita Sorel adventure. And when you have a friend who's always stirring up adventures, how do you say no? You don't. You just go along for the trip. And that's what I did.
Okay, Mark, what is your connection with Nunsense?
Nunsense was the 3rd Broadway, off-Broadway show I saw when I went to visit New York in 1987 for the first time. And I find that this production we're doing here is quite the completion. You know how we collect things in our life for this thing and that thing? Mm-hmm. Well, the first show we saw was La Cage aux Folles on a Thursday night. And that was in 87. And in 1992, I became Jerry Herman's music coordinator, and I still am. He's the man who wrote the music and lyrics of La Cage aux Folles, and Hello Dolly, and Mame, and numerous other shows. And the second night was Me and My Girl, starring Jim Dale. And I am now Jim Dale's pianist, his only personal pianist he's ever had in his whole career in England and here. And I didn't know that, you know. And that was in 87, July of 87. And in 2006 is when we really connected. And we've done off-Broadway, on-Broadway, and the London West End. So, and we've done our show, Just Jim Dale, if you want to Google it. There's pictures of us, just the two of us on stage. And so that was Friday night. Saturday matinee was Nunsense off-Broadway at the Douglas Fairbanks Theater. And it was me, my best friend Skylar, who played opposite Anita in Midsummer Night's Dream musical as Oberon and Titania, and my mom, of course mom had to go, and a dear lady who's since passed away, Betty Shedeck. She was in my adult musical theater class in Oklahoma City. So the 4 of us go, we had the best time. But we go to see Nunsense at 2 o'clock, the original cast, and we are laughing our heads off. And we just instantly fell in love with this show. And now I've done it twice. Out in Far Rockaway Park in New York at a community theater. And then I did it another place in Oklahoma. But so it's like that's been an important musical to me, the first three. And Dan Goggin, the man who wrote it all, he is a personal close friend to Anita Sorel, because when Dan started out, it was a one-woman show with Marilyn Farina, and it was all this nun humor and whatever. And Marilyn was a stand-up comedian, actress, singer, whatever, and they played this in all the gay bars in Manhattan. And he decided that it was a big hit. He wanted to like broaden it out for mainstream. Well, Anita had a production company called the Baldwin Theatre, and it's in the school, the Baldwin School she was teaching in, but she started an equity company in that. And so Danny heard about it, called her and said, I'd like to, try my musical out at your theater. She goes, bring it on over. Well, she worked with him on the book to go, oh no, that won't play in mainstream theater. She can't say that. You can't, you gotta, And that's what shored it up. And it wasn't one nun, it was 5 nuns. And Marilyn Farina was the Mother Superior, the Reverend Mother, and added the 4 other nuns and shaped the show. And then it moved to Off-Broadway, where it ran for 10 years. And there's 9 sequels to it. And it's still, here we are today. 1985 it opened, and here we are in 2025. And it's been done all over the world in all languages, national tours, everything. There's even on YouTube, there's a filmed, they call it the movie, but it's not like a movie, it's a filmed performance, but high quality, starring Rue McClanahan. And I can't tell you, like Hello Dolly, many women have played Reverend Mother, and then the one who loses her memory named Sister Mary Amnesia. So all kinds of women have played this part, stars, and but it's just a great show, and Anita's connection to it makes it very special, because I don't know of anyone else who was right there with Danny Goggin when he was developing it out of a one-woman show to be mainstream musical theater. But it was Anita Sorel who was there. And she lives right here in the Sandy, Oregon area. So, you never know where we're from and what we've done. Yeah, it's true. You got to be careful. Don't assume anything, because you don't know who and what people are and where they've come from.